Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Tech Talk. I'm your host, Jeff Hootselle. I'm the Chief Cloud Officer with the AuditMax. And you guys know this show, it's a conversation show that we do. We talk to IT leaders and folks doing really interesting things in technology from all around the country. We hit on a lot of great topics and kind of trending things in the industry. Today's no different from that. We're actually going to focus on the areas of cybersecurity today. We've got a fantastic guest with a great track record. We've got Suyesh Karki from Domo is joining us today. So Suyesh, thanks for joining us from Salt Lake City this morning.
Yeah, it's nice being here, Jeff. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So you're the Chief Information Security Officer at Domo, which is a great job. And Domo's a great company. You guys work with some of the biggest brands out there in the marketplace and do some amazing things in kind of the field of BI. For folks that aren't familiar with Domo, maybe give us a little overview of the company and kind of what you guys are all about.
Yeah, sure. So Domo is essentially a platform that supports a lot of the data aggregation, enterprise data, for the most part. With really the objective is to combine a lot of these disparate systems and get the information that you need to make the right decisions and on an almost real-time basis, right? So it enables a lot of our companies that we work with is not only just getting the information from all of these maybe disconnected systems or systems that don't necessarily talk to each other in a very efficient manner. So we bring all that information in one place, provide a single pane of glass for a lot of the decision makers to look at that information, analyze it, and do what's best for the company based on that data. But at the same time, there's a lot more power to provided to that data that helps decision makers with really, really key information, data-driven decision that they can then make to enable their own business or whatever use case that they are bringing that information over into Domo platform for. So yeah, it's been a good I guess a good data platform, and seeing the growth in terms of not only bringing the data but at least also seeing what we can do with that data has been pretty good for the company so far.
Yeah, it's an amazing product. We have clients that use your services, and they rave about it as far as just the ability to, you talk about gathering, disparate systems and all that information. You kind of breeze through it like it's an everyday thing for you guys, but for most companies, that's a huge struggle for them to try and pull that information together and then be able to put it in like the one pane of glass and visualize, that information to make quick decisions is terrific. So we definitely love it.
Yeah.
Now your expertise is really in the field of cybersecurity. I'd love to dig in there a little bit. I mean, one of the things we're seeing now with COVID is there some changes in that space? I mean, it was obviously a big topic before and a lot of importance, and people were really struggling with their cybersecurity governance and policies and things that they have. But what kind of new things are you guys seeing as threats as we kind of move into this era of COVID and the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly has changed the overall landscape in terms of how we should prepare and which we should anticipate in terms of the types of attacks that we're seeing in the light of COVID. Mostly, it's driven by the fact that everybody is obviously remote for the most part for where they can be remote, and not only that, our attackers are also now have more time, more attack surfaces that they can scan and exploit, right? So the combination of people working from home and maybe connecting to your company network via their home network is a good challenge for us to really make sure that the home network is just as secure as company network when you're doing company business, right? And making sure that these attackers are not able to exploit that weakness in your in your remote connection. And at the same time, because we're all working remotely, we're paying extra attention to a lot of the other forms of communication, such as email. I mean, in the past, emails maybe could be answered by just swinging by somebody's desk if we were in the office, right? And right now that we don't necessarily have that luxury, so we a lot of the users are paying extra attention to be able to respond to emails right away, and because of that mentality, they may be super prone to clicking on, phishing emails, for example. And if they appear to be coming from their boss, they feel the urge to respond to it right away, just because they're remote and they want to show they're being, responsible and attentive and so on and so forth. And then that we've seen a lot more increase on that sort of user behaviors that's causing in a lot of these attacking points for these bad guys, right? And you may have heard news on ransomware. A lot of the companies having being attacked by the bad guys and having to pay ransom to get their information back. And we looked at, okay, how are they getting into your network? And most of the time it was through the emails. Really, it was that easy. Just finding a user inside employee, getting some credentials from them, based on email, phishing email attacks, and you're in. And once you're in, you can access and encrypt a lot of the data, a lot of the information that the company values, and then you have a negotiating power to get as much money as you want from those companies if they don't have the safeguards in place to get that information back for their business.
Yeah, so it seems like that that human element, you can put as much technology and these barriers and and then tools in place, but if you don't have that human element kind of figured out and those folks educated, that's always going to be the weakest link, I think. Is that how do you guys approach that from a Domo perspective, knowing that the human piece of it's going to be the highest risk? What do you do for that?
Technology can only take you that so far. Human element. We're all humans, and unless the world is taken over by robots all over the place, that element of risk is always going to be there. How do you minimize that is the biggest question. And for us, it's really been awareness, right? And I know it's a pretty common term that gets thrown around, user security awareness, and a lot of companies do a lot of different ways in terms of how they educate, how they train their employees to be aware of certain types of attacks, certain types of emails to watch out for, or indicators of compromise. From left to right, there's a lot of different tools and technologies to enable us to do that. But at the end of the day, if you don't understand your user base and try to understand their behavior, what they're enabled from a technology perspective to do, and how they can, how the technology that they're using or their user behaviors can then lead to higher risk for the company. Just sending out general security awareness messages may not be very effective. And we tried that before, right? We tried using enterprise learning management systems to provide security awareness training to a lot of our user bases. But again, those are very generic. They're not specific to somebody's behavior, somebody's use case by which they're accessing your company network or utilizing your assets. So really, I think, adaptive technology and understanding the user behavior is really key. And when I say user behavior, that has to tie in with the user responsibility, right? I mean, when you do the general security awareness training, you're sending out one training package to everybody in the company, regardless of the jobs, which gets us a lot of the baseline controls. But, if you're talking to an engineer versus a customer support person or a salesperson, their job responsibilities and the interaction that they have and the risk profile that they present are all different. So you have to tailor those messages to their particular job responsibilities and then see what kind of challenges they might face, anticipating, their normal course of, interaction, internal development teams, so on and so forth, and making sure that you actually provide a message that resonates with them when they're doing their jobs on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think you see a lot of companies where we have the standard form of best practices, and we're gonna check the box, so we've emailed that out to all our employees, or they sat through a half-hour training session, and we just think we're good and we move on get back to running the business. I think that concept of everybody's role is a little different. How they're going to interact and how they may face possible threats is going to be very different. I think that's a great point. I'm curious, if you look out over the cybersecurity marketplace in that industry, and you kind of look into your crystal ball, do you think a couple years out, what do you think the future of that space looks like? What changes do you anticipate in the next 2 or 3 years?
Lot more automation, a lot of the use of the technology to enable what we call shifting left mentality, which really means let's bake in security when you're actually constructing or building something, right? And rather than making it after the fact, looking at it and saying, okay, here are the security gaps we got to fix. Let's get in early. Let's get in early during the development phase, or when you are designing something, If it's a product, you're getting in there in all the design meetings and introducing a lot of the security perspectives, so people can actually think about it and build that into the architecture. Or when you're providing services, again, you're baking that into your project plan and making sure that you address all of the risks that can be addressed. And if you can't address any particular risk, at least there's reasonable evaluation of the risk to be able to accept it and move on, and maybe find other ways to mitigate that part. So really, I think use of the technology and automation to be able to enable security organizations to do that is where I think we're all headed towards, because manual security controls and checks and processes that we put in place, I mean, they're all great and useful, but they're always looked upon as something that slows people down, especially in our industry, where we have to move fast and break things like Facebook, right? So in order to be able to achieve that same amount of pace and same level of innovation, we have to innovate on our side to introduce more automation, more technology to help us still be secure without compromising the pace, the quality, the trust that the customers have of your product or your service. So I think that's where we're all headed, and there's a lot of companies that are making a lot of investments in that approach. A lot of the engineers, are now becoming more and more security aware because of this approach, because security has teamed up with them right from the get-go as they're developing, and helping them understand risk goes a long way in actually fixing the problem before they become a problem.
Yeah, it's a rapidly kind of exploding marketplace. And I think, like you mentioned, having a good security strategy that intertwines with all your other, digital transformation plans and everything is essential there. So it's some great insights. I appreciate that. So yes, for folks that want to find out more about Domo or want to connect with you personally, where's a good place they can go to find out more about you?
For Domo, Domo.com is a quite a good resource for anything that relates to our product, our team, our services. Personally, you could reach me at on my LinkedIn. You can just look up Suyesh Karki, and you should be able to find me there. Other than that, I think there's a lot of resources that can be pointed out and can be referenced from Domo.com. If you have any questions about the product, anything as such, there's a lot of resources there for you.
That's great. So yes, thanks for the insights today. I know you've got some great stuff out there. We've seen some articles and things that you've put up online, so definitely go check those out. And appreciate you joining us this afternoon.
Thank you, Jeff. Thanks for having me. And it was great talking to you today.
You got it. Hey, and thank you guys for joining us as well. If you ever want to check out any of our past videos, feel free to go to automax.com, and you can check out our library of interviews there and find out more about us. Until then, we'll look forward to catching you the next time.